As has been said before, of the many, many, many hundreds of stories that have been told and are yet to be told, the favorite stories are the Sufi stories. And that's because the secret that's contained in every story ever told is overt, open in the Sufi stories. But the second favorite stories are the Siddha stories. Now these stories are the stories of the wretches, the wastrels, the reprobates, the ne'er-do-wells, as well as the odd king and pundit and monk, who were the harbingers or the messengers, the bridges, at a time when Hinduism was morphing into Buddhism, time of great change. So perhaps these stories are favored because we can number ourselves amongst these, because we too are the harbingers, the messengers, the teachers, the bridge at this time of great change. So this story is one of those Siddha stories. It's a story about a man called Selipa. Now Selipa was a day laborer, and he was of the lowest caste and the poorest of the poor. The only abode within his means was a hovel beside the cremation grounds. But Selipa had no peace. He lived in a state of anxiety and fear, because every night when darkness descended, jackals came to the charnel grounds to scrounge for the scraps of rotten flesh that had been left behind when the bodies had been burned. And they yowled, and they fought, and they wailed, causing Selipa's blood to go cold within his veins. And he lived in fear. He slept little, their wailing entering into his being until he trembled the night through. But one day, a wandering mendicant monk came by and knocked on Selipa's door. Well, of course, as was the custom, Selipa invited him in and gave him part of that simple repast that he himself was eating. And they got into discussions about what was going on in the town. And then the wandering monk began to talk to Selipa about the grace that came from giving, waxing lyrical about what blessings arose when you gave alms and hospitality. And Selipa tried his best to listen with all his ears as to what the monk was saying, but the night had fallen, and he began to tremble. And the monk noticed his pallor and his trembling, and said to Selipa, "Well, is it that you're afraid of the wheel of births and deaths? Because this is the greatest fear one can have." Selipa said, "No, no, listen." And the monk said, "All I hear is the chorus of the jackals." "Oh no," said Selipa. "This is the sound that causes my heart to have terror. I have no sleep. I have no rest. I imagine myself surrounded and eaten by these creatures. Oh, said the monk, the only way to counter fear is with fear. But first, I must give you some instruction and initiation. Well, Selipa immediately went to get his meager savings and prostrated himself in front of the monk, giving what he had. And then the monk gave him initiation and what is called empowerment. And he said to Selipa, what you must do is build your house in the middle of the cemetery grounds and place yourself there until the sounds of the jackals' wails take you to the sound beyond the sounds. And from there, you will find yourself in the silence beyond all sound. Now, Selipa had great fear, but trusting the monk's words, he indeed built his house in the middle of those burning ghats. And he sat. At first, his blood was chilled by the sounds now surrounding him, but with great presence of mind, he allowed himself to enter the sound of the jackals until he arrived at the sound beyond the sound. And without effort, effortlessly, he became one with the silence from which all sounds arise. He came to discover that the sound of the jackals meeting the silence cancelled each other out to bring about a state of mind which was filled with peace, fearlessness. Selipa remained in his house in the middle of the Chano grounds for 9 years, after which he traveled abroad wearing the fur of a jackal, and he became known as the Jackal Guru. What does it mean to be a bridge, a messenger, a harbinger in times of change? Listening to these stories and looking at our own life, the challenges, the fears that have arisen for us and which abound in life today on a grand scale. Where are we? What is it to be a bridge? What is it that happens when the sounds, the vibrations, filled with the sound equally as disturbing as the sound of the jackal, as fear permeates the air, meeting this presence? What does it mean to build your house in the middle of the cemetery ground? And what happens when those sounds bring us and meet with the silence of that place? Here we are, nowhere to go, nothing to be, nothing to do. What happens? What is this bridge? Look to the Siddha stories. Thank you, thank you.